It should be obvious that we cannot solve a crisis with the same methods that got us into it in the first place.
This is a last chance saloon. Because if we don't really take the decisions that are vital now, it's going to be almost impossible to catch up.
We will end the moratorium on extracting our huge reserves of shale, which could get gas flowing as soon as 6 months. We'll give way.
If unprecedented changes are not made and made soon, there will be irreversible damage to the planet.
Zerocarbonista.
Hello and welcome to Zerocarbonista Series 4 Fool's Gold. I'm Ian Collins and this is the UK's #1 environment-based podcast. If it's green, it is in. This is a kind of special episode, Del. This is the preview to the launch of Series 5.
What can I say?
Yes?
Yes, I'd say yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, no, it isn't. No, you're right, it is.
The reason, because obviously since we last spoke, we've done WOMAD. That was amazing. What a great stage that was as well. What a great day and great questions we had.
Yes, and I had a bit of a break, right? That happened and gone.
We had a break. We laid in a hammock in the West Country for 3 weeks. Vegging out. Amazing, really.
Not together, if anybody's wondering.
No. They're two separate hammocks next to each other. And by the way, there are a couple of questions that have come in, which I will throw in because it's worth doing so, just before we get into talking about what we think the terrain looks like ahead of us now. Mm-hmm. This came from Chris, who says, now Dale has launched his airline with a look at hydrogen. Will he be adding electrolyzers to some of his wind turbines to mop up power that would otherwise be curtailed? It'd be very cool to produce your own renewable aviation fuel. I'm sure that question makes sense to you, Dale.
Yeah, it does. I would say electrolyzers, yes. They don't have to be next to windmills, though. We can use the grid just to transport the power, and that means we can be flexible on location. And of course, during the summer, we did launch our green gas mill, and that's a great place also to put electrolyzers. We're thinking about doing that so that we can create hydrogen, which we can add to gas if we want to, or turn into electricity if the grid needs electricity more. It's a really interesting concept where we can produce gas or electricity on the same site.
So just before we go back, and for those new to this podcast and new to this new series coming up, we are going to just play some of the highlights from the last series in a couple of moments. Just give us a taster, though, bearing in mind where we've been for the last year, the kind of headlines, that weather that we had in August, July, and June, July and August, and all that's gone with it, the government, Rishi Sunak, the announcement of drilling for oil. I don't even know where to start. You know, there's moments when you go, wow, things are moving, and then you go, oh, look what they've done again. So there's a lot of that going on. What are you thinking of, like, the year ahead, or certainly the months ahead? Where do you think this whole green story is going, Dale?
You know what? I think the Tories are going to dig deeper. I think Rishi Sunak will continue to drill while Rome burns, and you know, it's going to get hotter. The big issue for me is the election. I think it'll become the big issue for the media as well as the clock ticks down towards that time when the Tories just have to call it, even though they don't want to.
Have they started drilling yet, or are they just saying they're going to?
That's right. They haven't issued licenses yet, but they're planning to. 100 of them. It's absolute madness. Absolute.
And when was the last time somebody did do some drilling in the North Sea?
I think it was about 4 years ago. It's not something we're in the habit of doing. And everybody thought it was over, right? Particularly as the whole world started to say, well, look, no more fossil fuels if we're going to stay on the right side of the climate crisis. But, you know, Rishi Sunak has other ideas. It's all about re-election. It's incredibly selfish, damaging to our country and stuff like that. But yeah, so I don't see that getting any better anytime soon. But the thing that could save us is the election.
And by the way, do you think there will be any drilling? I mean, is it possible that will never happen?
I think it is possible, because even though Labour have said they won't rescind the licences, there are other ways to make it uneconomical, unappealing to do something. And if I were them, I would be looking at those things, you know, like a carbon tax on North Sea oil and gas, right?
Do you think Keir Starmer is likely? I mean, obviously the election isn't going to happen this year, but I mean, stranger things have happened. There could be some weird quirk and it suddenly, you know, turns up in November or something. But, you know, it will be next year. Do you think that the difference of having a Labour administration will be seismically changing or just a bit? Because a lot of people on the left are suspicious that there'll be some cosmetic changes. The no more drilling thing will carry on, but Rishi Sunak will be able to say, well, I didn't drill either, if he didn't. So are the changes going to be big enough to make the real difference that you have argued for your life we need?
Yes. I think they will be. I think they will be seismic. I think certainly compared to this Tory government, because what you're adding up is a massive negative to any size of positive that Labour come up with. I think it'll be a big positive, and the difference between that and a big negative that we're currently living with is actually twice as f***ing big.
It's a very good point. All right, so we are going to be back with the brand new series. We're very excited about that. It makes us feel like we're heading towards Christmas, Dale. I know how much you love Christmas.
Don't get me
It's your
started.
favourite time of year. Anyway, let's move to some of the bits from the previous series for those who haven't heard, and for those who did and would like to hear some of those cracking moments. Again, here's a very opinionated Dale Vince in conversation on zerocarbonista, and these are some beauties. And sadly, Dale, that's as far as I can read, because we just had our intro to this show erased. I think the government are listening to us or something.
That's perfect.
Literally, it just disappeared in front of my eyes.
I love it. I love it. I don't know what to say either, because, I mean, I don't have an intro script, but you've thrown me now.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's just like a couple of lines that I always say as a kind of nice entree into this festival.
oh, it was very entertaining.
And now it's
them.
gone, and I think it's to do with Chinese balloons.
Right. Or Soros, right? He's about controlling things.
Soros, yeah. Or
Apparently,
Bill Gates, apparently, as well.
Could be. Cool. You haven't had a vaccination recently, have you?
Well, it's funny you say that, because there's a lot of stuff about Bill Gates. You know, he met with Grant Shapps.
I didn't know that.
And Shapsy looks as if he's just met the king of the world. And he's very, very excited, Shapsy. He's going, look who I've got with me. And then the camera pulls out, and there's Bill Gates, who's like, if you could put an air bubble above Bill Gates's head, it would have said, who the is this guy?
He looks like some kind of anti-arch villain.
Yeah. Is that Shapps or Gates?
I'm going to say both.
So we mentioned George Soros again, because he's in this next story. Scientists must take control of the weather to fight climate change. According to George Soros, he said he's warned that inaction threatens to destroy humanity. So he's urging government to use the kind of, I think they call it cloud seeding technology.
Yes, when you were reading that, I was hearing it in a villainous voice and imagining George like the Mekon floating on that dish that defies gravity or something from the Dan Dare comics, saying we must use weather control. And actually, he was using mind control to get the leaders of the world to say, yes, we'll do that, George.
What's happening here then?
Cloud seeding is an interesting concept, but the danger of geoengineering on that global scale is that it gets out of control. And, we talked, I think, last week about scientists proposing we do something on the moon, spit millions of tons of moon dust into the space between the Earth and the sun and cool the Earth down. We joked, if they get that wrong, we'll have another ice age. That's the kind of risk that we're taking messing about with the weather. I'm not convinced that we should do that. And I think there are better things we can do. We know what we need to do on the energy front, go full tilt towards green energy. We've got the money, we've got the technology, it's more economic. We should get after these things that we can control, and we'll make an enormous difference. We should do them first.
In layman's terms, Dale, is the view of George Soros, is it that, right, if it's too hot, then stick some seeds in the clouds so it pisses down? Is that the layman's interpretation of this?
No, I think actually there's a mistake in the headline, or at least in the way he expressed it, because really it must be climate control. It can't be weather control. It must be about cooling the planet by cloud seeding in order to fight the global temperature rise, which is being driven by carbon emissions, which we aren't getting down fast enough. So, it could be a kind of stopgap to help keep the planet cool while we do the real job, but it can't be instead of the real job.
Because there are conspiracy theorists who believe that climate change is only happening because people like Soros and his chums, Bill Gates and the like, have got a secret plan to make it look like the weather's gone a bit shit-faced. And in terms of it's hot there, it's flooding there, there's God knows what going on over. So the idea is that you create this, and then we all buy into the green agenda.
Yeah, or if you've seen the film Stark, which was based on a book written by
Ben Elton.
I want to say Ben Elton. I nearly said John Elton. I don't know why. Ben Elton. Fantastic film. It's very much like that. This bunch of very rich people around the world conspire to completely overload the world with toxic stuff. Total toxic overload, they called it. And then as a result, they all off to the moon or something.
That's right, yeah. All the rich people.
In their rockets.
Yeah, went and lived on the planet Stark, as it turned out. So you think Rishi is a step up from Liz?
Well, I don't think it was possible to step down from Liz. I know, so I don't.
Yeah,
think,
so that would defy the law of physics in a way, wouldn't it?
yeah, so I don't think there's any kind of compliment to him. The bar was very low.
Yeah,
So-
that's very true. Is he? Has he done anything that you've thought? Oh, okay. Have you had one of those? Oh, okay, as it should now be known.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
moments?
I mean,
Well,
he did reconsider the onshore wind ban, but that was only because he faced a rebellion of his own MPs.
Yeah, where is that, by the way?
So he
What's
gets no
happening
credit for that. It's due to be in consultation in March. It's kind of like kicked into the kind of.
this takes. I mean, this would take 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It's a consultation in March, and then after the consultation, there'll be a report. Then there'll be an inquiry.
Yeah.
And we will get to the next election and nothing will have been done.
I think that might be the plan. But this is frustrating because, recent opinion polling showed that something like 70% of Tory voters want onshore wind, not just the general public, So it seems to fly in the face of, common sense or even good politics, actually. But I think he's trying to keep his party together. There are lots of anti-wind people in that group of Tory MPs. And that's his real problem, which is why he hasn't done anything on the environment. He's busy surviving day to day, I would say.
I know I say this every time, but it's always worth repeating because I just can't believe it. You just articulated it maybe without realizing the anti-wind people. I mean, who the is anti-wind? I mean, how do you become anti-wind? At what point in your predisposition is it an evolution to your anti-windness? Are you born with the anti-wind thing? Do you develop it? Do you join a cult? Are you indoctrinated? At what point do you say, I know what I'm going to deny the weather. I'm going to become anti-wind?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but it's exceptional, isn't it, that such people exist and they can be quite prominent as well, and they get a platform. And it's like, it's a form of climate denial, really, to say that onshore wind is some kind of problem against every opinion poll and against all the facts, basically, and of course our urgent need for cheap, reliable energy. But hey-ho.
Well, I think there's kind of an old school to it. It doesn't mean they're all old because there are some younger ones, but I think the younger ones generally are better on this. That sort of, if you mention the word environment, and straight away you've got kind of hippies dancing naked around trees and druids at Stonehenge, and that's the image they have. So the minute if at any point you either sympathise or agree on anything like that, you're some kind of nut job in their world.
Yeah.
And they've had that all their life, and then suddenly they're forced to sort of legislate on this stuff, and they just can't separate that old stereotype, really.
Yeah, it must have been quite upsetting when over the last 20 years, the idea of wind energy went from being a fringy kind of hippie academic concept to being a mainstream global business with unarguable economics, because that's where it is now.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, they actually use it. It's not as if we're talking about a theory here of wouldn't it be great if they could use wind to harness some energy to heat homes and do, this is a thing. It's already there. You got the biggest companies in the world who are harnessing this. They might not be doing enough of it. They should be doing more of it. And governments, of course, need to play their role. But this is not an invented notion that you're asking people to jump on board like some get-rich scheme.
No. And that's what I'm saying. It's proven itself over the last couple of decades and has become the most economic form of energy that we have available to us. Yeah. So there is no argument against it, actually. And it must be quite difficult for people that just don't like the look of them.
I think that's it, though, isn't it? That crystallizes it because it gives them a kind of, they've got all their isms and they're against it, blah, 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 hippies, Stonehenge, back to all of that. But then their kind of exhibit one, my lord, is the windmill, and that's the point when they go, see, look, all of this that you want, this great big thing, in my back garden for a bit of energy, half a year, it's not. That's I think what does it for them.
I think we're on the same page.
They lose their shit is the colloquial phrase, as my old nan would have said. I'll tell you what, Dale, that's a double-edged sword, that sunshine thing, because, it's warm. I know you've got your trunks on and stuff like that. The pina coladas are coming thick and fast, but it's melting the solar panels.
Shit, I'm thinking now you've got a spy cam in my office. You see everything.
We always review the footage. So what's coming? The solar panels are melting. I saw this in the paper this week. And I thought, hang on a second. I don't believe that solar panels, which when I was a kid, I used to walk to school. There were 2 houses then that had solar panels on the roof.
Wow.
So this is a long time ago. And I never I didn't even know what they were for about 2 years. I thought, what is this stuff on the roof there? So this would have been sort of early adopters of the technology in the sort of early 80s, I guess. Yeah. But they didn't melt and none of them have melted. And I would have thought that the person that invented the solar panels might have considered the melt factor. And I don't think we'd have got this far down the line without someone raising the issue, which leads me to believe that the story might be, as my old nan would say, a load of bollocks.
Yes. Well, look, this is a story from the melts at the Telegraph, right? They decided that the UK had to turn on a coal-fired power station this week because solar panels were letting us down because there was too much sun. I think they've got like British Rail firmly in mind where we get the wrong kind of leaves, the wrong kind of everything. I mean, it's pure bullshit. What happened is more and more people have aircon in our country now than they ever did. I mean, back when you were at school, nobody had it, right?
Yeah.
Because temperature's getting hotter, summer's getting hotter, more and more people have aircon. It's been effing hot this week and last week, and people cranked up the aircon. Solar was the biggest single contributor on the grid yesterday, by far. Now, solar panels, when they get hot, they do produce slightly less output. You know, it might be 5%, might be 10%, depends on quite how hot. So when you install them, you have an air gap underneath to keep them cool. So there's definitely an effect there. But listen, a lot of things suffer in the heat, but our fleet of solar panels in Britain didn't underperform. It certainly didn't melt or melt down. It outperformed. And without it, well, we'd have been screwed.
So what melted?
The Tory graph.
Well, I mean, literally, because that thing's for sale, right?
Well, that's true. And actually, we thought about making a bid, part out of cheek. And actually, things start out, in my experience, as cheek, and then they turn into something real. And then you go, shit, that happened. And now I'm running this. But we thought maybe we'd crowdfund it, maybe just go out there and there must be so many people in our country pissed off with the right-wing media dominance of our national conversation. Maybe there's enough of us to chip in and buy the thing.
Well, that's true. How many do we...
I agree you're thinking.
Oh, they did get me thinking. I thought, so it's got to be worth about £27. So that's that's like a tenner a piece. So, between me, you, Dale, and someone else. I don't know who, but someone.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's a crazy idea. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But the fuckwits that own it have had it taken from them by their bank for some financial problems. I mean, it's actually the surviving Barclay brother who lives in a tax haven and is was on the verge of going to jail for not paying his wife the court mandated, divorce sum. I mean, he's all kinds of a funny person, if you ask me. But yeah, he's having the Tory graph taken from him. And it ought to be an opportunity for somebody with big pockets to step up from the left wing of life, hopefully, and buy it, or maybe for a crowd-funded rescue mission.
Yeah, if the Telegraph became a left-wing newspaper, that would be amazing.
That'd be fabulous, wouldn't it? If I had a little bit more time this week, I'd have looked more closely at it, but it's been another one of them weeks.
And it's been another strange week for a Scottish firm who's been given £430 million in green loans. Only to expand its oil and gas operations. What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, well, this was a green transition loan, first of its kind, I believe, and it was money dished out by Liz Truss in her £30 billion month in charge of the country. That's what she cost us. So compared to the 30 billion, it's not quite a drop in the ocean. It's nearly $500 million. Went to the Wood Group. They promptly increased their investment in oil and gas by 20% nearly, and decreased their investment in renewable energy by 35%, and stuck two big fingers up at the idea of a green transition loan.
I mean, I don't want to be too cynical. I would suggest that's not in the spirit of the loan.
Yeah, it must be in the small print somewhere that you just can't do that, right?
You might think, I mean, there's brazen and then there's fuck me.
That's right.
They firmly stuck their flag into the latter there, I think, Dale.
I think they did.
You see, this podcast, Dale, it's written itself, this podcast, right?
Yeah. I mean, actually, the right-wing media wrote it for us, right, all week. As they've escalated, kind of snowballed, feeding themselves, getting high on their own bullshit.
So what is going on here? I mean, you're monkeying around with Just Stop Oil and the Labour Party. I thought you Tories stuck together.
I mean, it's mad, right? My PR people tell me it's a dead quiet news week, and that's why this has got that interest. There's nothing going on at all. So it started with the Scotsman on Sunday. Somebody sent me a link, a picture of the front page, and it was kind of like, it came at me like in one of those war films when somebody shouts, "Incoming!" right? And everybody gets down. It was like that, because I wasn't named in it. It just said something about Keir Starmer about to announce a ban on new North Sea oil. Like it was a big thing and a new thing, which it later turns out it wasn't a new thing. Anyway, it started with that. And then on Monday, the Daily Mail, I think they had me on the front page, actually. calling me an eco-funding zealot for funding Just Stop Oil. And they were making this link. They just created it, right? I fund Just Stop Oil, I fund Labour. They've all complained about that before and told Labour to give the money back. So they began that again. But then came again this story that somehow that's why Labour are deciding that we shouldn't have no new gas and oil from the North Sea. It's got nothing to do with the science or our climate targets that say we mustn't drill for more oil and gas, or the economics that say it won't help us lower energy bills, or all the common sense stuff out there in the world that would lead anybody to say let's not have new oil and gas. It was apparently because I'd given them some money. I've been all week on the media, and it's been escalating. Right, the Sun waded in on I think it was Tuesday, because I was on the Today program Tuesday morning. Had a great chat, really honest and open. We talked about the right to protest, the police clampdown, the right to go about your daily lives and all this kind of stuff, And they said to me, when did you last speak to Keir Starmer? I gave an honest answer. It's all I've got. And I said, well, actually, it was last week, right? They've got 6 million listeners. The Sun write headline saying, secret meeting revealed. I'm like, hang on a minute. If I had a secret to keep, I wouldn't tell 6 million people, would I? And anyway, we didn't meet. We had a phone call for like 5 minutes. And it's just escalated beyond that. And then you've got Tory MPs all over the media yesterday and Tuesday night saying Labour should give the money back. There's something really fishy going on. This policy came hours after the secret meeting. That's what the Sun and the Mail are now doubling down on. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. They're trying to make an absolute mountain out of nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So this is proper kind of eye of the storm stuff, isn't it? You read about these kind of escalating snowball effect moments sort of happening to people. You found yourself as that person. Yeah, and this is the right-wing media are feeding themselves. Each one of them escalates it a little bit and they pick it up and blow it up a little bit more. It's like some kind of mad positive feedback loop, and it's become a place where there's this incredible conspiracy going on, and the guy that funds Just Stop Oil is also like the puppeteer for Labour policy. It's been a frustrating week, but it's also been an interesting week because our response to the Daily Mail front page on Monday, I was due to speak to Just Stop Oil anyway for the last couple of weeks. We finally had a chat on the day after, and we decided to flick the V's at the Daily Mail and start a funding drive. So I promised to double the donations anybody makes within 48 hours of that date. And so far, we're running at about £200,000. And, I'm going to go on social media tomorrow and thank the Daily Mail for that little contribution to the cause. That's one good outcome.
This came in from Alex, though, who says, be honest, Dale, did you expect to be giving so much more money to Just Stop Oil?
Honestly, I didn't think about it.
What does he mean by that? Did you increase the money you gave? Is that what happened?
I've given money before. And that's the other thing to say. I've been giving money to Just Stop Oil since before they started, right? Just over a year or something like that. I've been giving money to Labour since...
Before they started stopping.
Before they started stopping stuff, yeah. And to Labour since Ed Miliband was leader through the Jeremy Corbyn years all the way up until now. There's nothing new about me giving money to Labour or funding. I funded XR, Animal Rebellion, which is now Animal Rising, all that kind of stuff. As well as Greenpeace and all the other stuff we've listed on here before. So, I didn't think about it. I just thought, the Daily Mail, right? If they say I shouldn't be doing this, I'm going to do it. So we did some more. And yeah, I didn't really know what it would be like. Just Stop Oil, to be fair, they said we can put a limit on it if you want. And I said, nah, let's just fly by the seat of our pants, see what happens.
You see, again, Dale, I've just been entertained there. That was, looking back at this podcast is much better than I actually thought it was.
Brilliant. Are you not entertained?
I'm appropriately entertained. And for those who are new, I know we always say this, you're very welcome to the weekly event.
Yes, our weekly look at the news, the trajectory of the climate crisis, the technology, questions from our listeners. It's got a lot in it. I do love it. I have to say, it's become like a big part of my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I did get this letter, an actual letter. Somebody wrote a letter. Says, Dear Ian and Dale, really love the podcast. I've learned so much from you guys. It's a very entertaining episode each week. I look forward to it. It's an appointment to listen. But I would just add, is it possible that you two don't swear as much? Says
No.
Off. In the bin.
That's how I released pressure. I'd explode if I couldn't swear every now and then.
Superb. We'll see you on the next episode.
Alrighty.
That's it for this episode. Don't forget to follow this podcast on your podcast provider as well. Follow Dale on social media, twitter.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince.
Zero Carbon East Talk.